Hello and welcome to Talking Point here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw.
And I'm Sean Michael Small. And Keaton, I am having a very good morning.
But that's good news. May I ask how?
Because somebody tried to do something about the ever-increasing or widening gap on the corner of Kitchen and Cornwall Street, right on the corner from the studio, on my way to it. Somebody actually finally, after, I don't know what, a year of just watching this go from a small leak to most of the intersection being one giant gap.
Crater, yeah.
Yeah, crater. That unless you had an SUV, it was bound to damage something. So look, somebody is working for you, the Society of TNT. I don't know if it's the government or what.
Well, thank goodness we've got local government elections coming later up this year, because I must admit in my area as well there's been quite a bit of paving work taking place.
So now, can you fault politicians if there is truth, and I don't know how true it is, that they say, well, if we pave right after elections, people will forget about that when the next election come, and they will say, well, you don't pave, you don't do nothing.
Good governance could be judged by what you do throughout your time in office, not what you do prior to an election. Although one might say, well, this is 5 years prior to an election, this is what I'm doing. No, the thing is, what you're doing in the months leading up to the election is always crucial and critical, because we've deemed it that way. It seems as though we tend to forget what's happened over the last 5 years, and we just remember, hold on, listen, you know, the other day they fixed that that pipe that was leaking for the last 2 years. You know, they've actually paved over that road. That crater was getting wide. In fact, what is intriguing is that I've seen a couple sinkholes appear, and what they've done is that they've paved over the sinkholes. They've not actually structurally dealt with the sinkhole. They've just filled it with asphalt and paved over it. So, you know, we'll see if that appears hopefully before a local government election.
Well, one thing with the proposals for local government election reform is that, if my memory serves correct, it will be full-time positions and not part-time work, as we see currently. You could still hold other jobs while being in local government.
It's true that the position,
and that might help.
It's true that the position of many councillors are part-time, because we only work one time, which is campaigning before the election. And people might say, Keaton, you're being absolutely harsh. There are many hard-working councillors out there. I wouldn't deny that there probably are. It's just as in my experiences, and given the fact that I live in an area where the local government representative is my neighbour, or the member of parliament is my neighbour as well, it's just sad to see that nothing is actually done. It's left to decay, and it's left to further be dilapidated. Well, I can give you one particular instance. There's a bridge that's been needing to be rebuilt. Again, the member of parliament for the area, who is a sitting government minister, resides on the next side of the bridge.
Yes.
And that bridge has needed to be rebuilt for a number of years now. And guess what? You know what they've done? They've just blocked off the bridge. So you actually have no access to utilize that bridge to get to the other side of the area that I live in. So what can I do about it? Talk about it on Talking Points.
I guess traffic planning, traffic route planning and road work planning, that's just a whole other kettle of fish. But we can't go down into that rabbit hole this morning. We have some topics planned, some interesting observations in daily news. So it's time to start off with our daily review. And Keaton, I found this story interesting because it seems as though the justice system, let me just say the justice system, has found another way to cause itself to have to pay out money after, either losing a case or being sued because how a case was handled. And this situation, highlighted in the daily papers, a businessman in 2015, police officers entered business Super Wholesalers and Distributors Limited, owned by Primnath Jilal. I am sorry if I got that name wrong. They entered this business searching for illegal firearms and ammunition, which they did not find. And the gentleman was not charged for anything with regards to what they were searching for. But what they did find was a large quantity of cash, which was found in 20 different currencies. So they proceeded to confiscate that. And then apparently the police obtained orders under the Proceeds of Criminal Act to keep the cash pending further investigation. Then the orders expired in 2017, so they were told return the cash. But what happened was they tried to return the cash all in TT. Remember, it was 20 currencies.
They tried to return it in TT via check from central bank.
Right. And so recently, the judge basically said, whoa, you have denied the person the right to his assets because he had it in however many different currencies. Whether it was convenient to him or not, that's what he owed. So he had intentions for that, you have denied him that. It has to be retained in that way. Then you have to give him $50,000 in compensation just for the whole situation. Then you have to pay his costs. Then on top of that, you have to pay, and this is just by the way, if you hold cash and then it's found that the seizure is not, well, you can't keep it. It's not a legal criminal confiscation, right? Basically, he's found not guilty. Well, you have to pay interest 7.5%. So I just found this is a beautiful way to kind of not get anything done, deprive a businessman of his working capital that he may or may not have needed for his business, and then on top of that have to pay. It's not necessary at all. I don't know if it'll work out $100,000 plus. It's not the heights of award payments, but it's just one more check going out extra that and I do wonder the whole fact that they decided to hold it in TT currency, right? That leads me to have questions, but I'll leave you to give me a first impression.
Well, I'm looking at it from two sides. One, crikey, what are you doing with 18 forms of foreign currency on your premises?
Well,
I mean,
19.
Don't get me wrong. I understand with the foreign exchange shortage that we've been experiencing, mostly for US dollars. And I mean, and US dollars will also affect our ability to have other foreign currencies.
I do remember speaking to a friend who has an import-export business. Getting any kind of foreign exchange was stress at that time. So that could be part of the reason.
It could be part of the reason, but that to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a supplier's business. But you know, I too would be skeptical. But there are processes to deal with these things, and if that was not handled according to the law, then it's unfortunate, because who are the lawyers or the attorneys that are advising the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service? Because they said they utilized the Procedures of Crime Act in order to seize the money. But when that expired, because they couldn't find anything, for whatever reason they couldn't find anything. By the way, just bear in mind, they used a warrant to search for illegal arms.
Exactly.
Right, on this individual's premises.
Exactly.
They didn't find any illegal arms. But they grew very suspicious when they saw these 19 forms of currency. They confiscated it. Procedures of Crime Act was used. When that expired, they tried to return it via TT dollars. I mean, that's one way to get foreign exchange into the legal system. Confiscate it, put it in the system. You know, we'll give you back in TT dollars. And then on top of all of that, the amount of fees the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service now have to fork out, again, not on behalf of the service, but money that comes from our pockets at the end of the day. I think the greatest investment is having the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service take your money and then you double it 5 years later.
Basically, because 7.5% of 1 million plus the 50,000 plus legal costs. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, legal costs is money spent. You're not actually spending that, but it's money the state has to pay. But here's the thing. So, it contended, this is the state, that based on the general wording, the Comptroller of Accounts is entitled to select a method that is reasonable and practicable and which conforms with its own processes and procedures. This is to say how they store the money, right? And then return the funds. My thing is though, why would you think that it's reasonable to confiscate 20 different forms of currency, so that's 19 foreign currencies, and you're going to store it in TT dollars, right? Why is that reasonable? Because the judge, at least on principle, like maybe not in terms of law, but on basic principle, I believe is right. His assets were in foreign currencies. Now, we don't know what the amount is, and I mean, obviously, maybe if you just look at his account, if you just audit his accounts, you could trace these foreign cash transactions.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, I know. That's why I said maybe, right? But at the end of the day, it's his assets, and since you to some extent, you have a responsibility to hold the assets in a manner that it could be retained as is. And this is not the first time we've heard of things, just not necessarily with cash. I believe a backhoe was confiscated from a gentleman, and when he received it, however many years later, it was in a very poor working condition, which means it's almost as though somebody went and scavenged a backhoe that was held in police custody for parts or what have you, or there was no security for wherever it was impounded. Now, the fact that this is cash, it makes me wonder if anyone was hoping that the cash, when translated into TT currency, would essentially just get lost in the system of the comptroller's accounts. And then it would be very easy to siphon some of that off. That's my speculation. That's a question. It's not necessarily the case. So, but I mean, the way how the case is handled to me is a bit suspicious. What was the plan here? How is it that you could have a warrant for one thing and then decide, oh, we didn't find that, but we're still going to go after you for something else?
It's not suspicious to me. And the reason being is because, unfortunately, again, I say, who are the attorneys advising police officers? Are police officers aware or fully aware of the law? Police officers are not lawyers. So you would assume that they have some sort of legal aid in times. It's not suspicious to me because too many times do instances of police operations or police conduct where it comes to warrants or conducting searches and confiscating items deemed to be suspicious. Not necessarily illegal, but suspicious. That's come up so many times before. And there's even something that I can point at here. Because if you're going on a compound searching for illegal arms, but you end up seizing cash, do you recall a couple months ago an issue was raised where in East Trinidad there were a number of police officers who were more or less taxing businesses?
Yep.
There is a possibility that this was some form of taxation, a possibility that we should not rule out, and the legal means was to actually get central bank to write that check. So also on what grounds? To me, I need a better understanding of the law as it relates to cash seized, and because I know sometimes with dormant accounts, it goes to central bank and it's put back into the system.
Right.
But this is not a dormant account. So under what proceeds, under what law, under what advice did central bank actually issue that check?
I would be willing to accept that it was a good faith investigation, but if it was on 2 years, if you held the money for a few months and you did investigations, why would it take 2 years? Like, if you can't find something, at some point it's diminishing returns, you're not going to find anything. And then, of course, how the return was attempted to be handled went into that already. Well, folks, we need to go for break. There is a second topic that I wanted to highlight, and that was, well, the question, and maybe we'll discuss this on a different day, and that is Ayla Christopher's retirement has been extended. But then it's been extended by a year. Is it that at most...
Not her retirement, but her 10 years commissioner of police.
No, but it's because she was going to have to retire if not extended, right?
Yeah.
My question out of all of that, not having to go into details, is should it be that the tenure of a commissioner is just too short in situations like this, and why do we have to keep it? Well, because they could only extend it up to 3 years, from what I understand, and is 3 years too short to actually have any impact as commissioner of police?
I think we have an issue with regards to seniority of police officers and them actually being placed in the position of commissioner of police when they're very close to retirement, which is unfortunate because it starts over the cycle
of
and the process all over again. So
should retirement be 65? I mean, I don't need the commissioner running down after bandits that just robbed the corner market.
Commissioner's not going to be running on after bandits.
I know, that's my point.
Don't worry about that. But we will comment more on that later on. For now, we have to take a break here on Talking Points. When we return, we'll welcome our guest commentator this morning. Stay tuned.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we see you next time.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
Although Trinidad and Tobago generally has a low occurrence of meningitis, it can lead to devastating complications which can be prevented if diagnosed early. Signs and the symptoms of meningitis, what would that look like?
This is not your little, I think the child feeling warm.
Not responding to Panadol at all.
Not responding to Panadol. The child is lethargic, the child is not drinking, the child is not eating, the child probably is going to be vomiting, the child is going to look very still, maybe breathing heavily, real sick child.
What's up, Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah. Hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
Welcome back to Talking Points, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us. If you're hearing a noise in the background, no, it's not Sean actually. It's not you, right? Sorry. Karen Ines joined Sean Michael Small and I this morning, and we were just having a bit of a laugh before coming back. But Karen, good morning, good to see you.
Good morning to you, Sean. Good morning, especially to Keaton.
Hello, Karen.
And you know I said I missed you.
Yes.
And you told me I would see you today, and so said, so done.
I kept my word. I kept
Yes,
my
you
promise. Karen, a lot is happening in the news, and one of the things that has been raised recently is the awarding of senior counsel or silk status to, well, it was initially 18 attorneys at law, but 17 were awarded because Lynette Sibran-Sweet actually recused herself.
Yes.
As she's the president of the Law Association. But this entire controversy over the awarding of silk, as it surrounds the president's husband and brother, the opposition has been heavily critical of it, but are they being contradictory?
Well, what I will say is that, yes, you can say they're being contradictory, but that's no excuse for the current government that has been in power since 2015. If they themselves found that it was not the right thing to do, and they felt that the suggestion, which has come from a number of parties, including you have Israel Khan going to court in March, to question the constitutionality of the current arrangement, it means that they had the opportunity to say it's not the right way to deal with this, that a prime minister who's not a member of the legal profession, yes, it goes through the AG, who's the titular head of the legal profession, but certainly there's no question that there must be discussion between the AG and the prime minister regarding the appointments, and therefore it comes as though it is an executive, a political decision. And that is a matter of concern. I'm looking at it firstly broadly, and should I give a little bit of the background, because some people thought, oh, I was told, felt that it came out of actual legislation. Actually, it's and I have to owe my knowledge of this to Dave Prasad, who wrote an excellent article, so I'm not going to I'm not plagiarizing, I'm using his immense knowledge. So to start with, the first, what they called notice, and that was when we had QC, Queen's Counsel, not Senior Counsel, was made pursuant to the provisions of an order number 282 in 1964. And that process was, as still maintains itself, you submit a list to the Attorney General, who is, as I said, the titular head of the legal profession, who then consult with the Chief Justice and other bodies, but that consultation is absolutely not mandatory. In other words, he doesn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. What he has to do is, once he's gotten the list, he then submits that list to the Prime Minister. And at that point, I'm quite confident this is where the mischief arises, because I know, although I'm not in practice, I have many persons that I know who more than qualify to be made a Queen's Counsel or Senior Counsel, looking at the lineup. I'm not saying anything against anyone, but certainly, but because they have not, in my respectful opinion, towed the line, in other words, are seen to be anti the government and anti the Prime Minister, and that should never be a decision on making someone a Senior Counsel within the legal profession. Political views should have nothing to do with that, and there is nothing set out saying what are the requirements for becoming a Senior Counsel. So that was the first notice. There's another one that was in later, a notice, the most recent notice, extraordinary notice 522, dated April 14, 2023, under the hand of the Attorney General for appointment of Senior Counsel and again, from the AG, he then passes on the recommendations. He can or cannot, does not have to consult with members of the bar or anyone, and then that list goes to the Prime Minister. I'm sure they have their discussion about who makes the cut, because it's the Prime Minister who makes the decision. And when we talk about the President, I just remind viewers that Section 80 of the Constitution, we have to go by the law, Section 80 of the Constitution does provide that the President shall act in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet or Minister acting under the general authority of the Cabinet, except where otherwise provides. So when the President appointed, that appointment would be following what the Prime Minister had decided. But it really is a political decision which should not at all happen. And I want to please indulge me a little bit, because did the Prime Minister not think that something was wrong with that? Yeah, when he's in the opposition, he saw a lot was wrong with it. A lot.
So then, arguably, then the process, the entire process is flawed because it allows for political influence.
Mm-hmm. But that's exactly it, and I'm going to read from the Prime Minister in 2011, yes, in the Parliament. This is what he had to say when he was not Prime Minister. What we are seeing, and he was talking about what had happened, Anand Ramlogan, who was then Attorney General, bestowed the rank of Senior Counsel to the Prime Minister, Kamala Prasad Possessor. Mm-hmm. And I think he did it with the DPP as well as the Chief Justice, who both, after a lot of pressure from the public, I believe, that had a lot to do with it, they returned the Senior Counsel designation. But in any case, this is what he had to say. And I'm quoting him: "What we are seeing now demands the process by which people attain accolades should be transparent, to be put in the hands of people who will protect the process from self-serving. To see the system abused in the political arena demands that we immediately move to review the system to make it more accountable to the national community." That's what your Prime Minister felt in 2011 when he got a chance. And he got a chance to do what he felt was wrong. So he clearly recognized that what was being done was political and it was unaccountable. But one more, the Attorney General himself, because remember, according to the process, you send your the applications to the AG first. And this is what Reginald Armour, who was in 2015 the president of the Law Association and Tobago, and that organization has already now spoken out very strongly on it, to the extent to which they've asked to be made an interested party in a matter that Israel Khan Senior Council had commenced in March. They now want to be an interested party. But this is what Reginald Amor, as the president, in a report said. He said that the independence of the legal profession, and in particular the bar from the state, in all its pervasive manifestations, is one hallmark of a free society. It is objectionable in principle for the executive or head of the executive arm of state and for the Honorable Prime Minister to play any role in this selection. That's your Attorney General.
May I ask you?
The current Attorney General.
2 points.
The current Attorney General.
Yeah.
Who sat down on that, whatever they called it, smiling very happily, or so it seemed, with what they had done.
But 2 points. One, if there is no set guidelines as for what it entails in order to be awarded senior counsel status, one, what is the point anyway of silk? What does it allow for? And two, are we making a bigger issue of something that should not be of major concern because of other pressing issues?
Well, I don't think because there are other pressing issues because perhaps that's one of the things, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but certainly, you could chew gum and walk at the same time. And that's part of being in government. I mean, that's what's called on. That's why you have so many ministers and you have a number of consultants, etc. So it's not as though it's a one-man show. So I don't agree with that perspective. And this is extremely important because it is what is seen as executive overreach. Because the fact of the matter is, whilst I am not in practice, I do know a number of attorneys. And they very well know, and I know some of them who definitely, I'm not saying those who are there don't qualify, who definitely qualify to be silk or Queen's Senior Counsel, but they very well know that if they take a position that is seen by the Prime Minister to be against his government or against him, they're not going to get it.
And
that is not right.
That affects their earning potential.
But that's not the point. What are the requirements for being a senior counsel? When you become senior counsel, it's like an honor. It's not just an honor, but it is the fraternity of the legal profession who have said that this person is entitled, has earned that honor to be senior counsel. Senior counsel charges different fees. Their fee status is completely different when they are. It is a tremendous honor to be a senior counsel. You wear different robes, so everybody knows that you wear silk. That's why they could say you're wearing silk, because your gown is now supposedly silk, and your fee structure, and you get a lot of briefs as a consequence of that, not only from Trinidad but from other CARICOM countries, right? So there's a tremendous, because when you are senior counsel, it's saying that you have met a very high standard. Now, who are the persons to make that judgment?
Yeah. I think, and there's a lot to say with regards to the Prime Minister's response to all of this, but on the basis of, or the basics of the criteria, what is the point of senior counsel? And the origin, I believe, is where we have a problem, because we took a mechanism, King's Counsel, whose own origin came out of a monarchy. Now, obviously, yes, the UK has modified things, they've kept some of the old terms, but what works for them, and some could argue even their parliamentary setup is not necessarily working for them. There are criticisms with regards to the amount of power that the Prime Minister in the UK has, etc., and what checks and balances they have with the system.
You mean generally?
Generally, right?
Yeah, but
my point is with this, the whole idea is, it's one thing, yes, King's Counsel, and the King decides, and okay, we're fine with that. But we don't have a king here. And by leaving it up to the leadership, the political leadership, it opens up a can of worms that I don't think. The irony, of course, is the Prime Minister seems to be woefully ignorant of some of the principles in his own argument. Same with the Attorney General. I can get to that after the break. But I just think that the whole idea of it if it's, it's an honor, but it's also a potential professional advancement.
But it's not
but,
only
but,
that.
But the process
it's
is not,
dollars and cents
right,
too.
Right, professional, but the process is not meritorious. And one could argue, how could it be considered consistent?
Well, just a very quick correction. The king does not decide.
No, he
No,
doesn't.
I know, but what I'm saying, the origin of it, right? And then it was.
That's before they. That's before.
Yeah, so right.
The what is? No.
But,
that is.
But you see, they transferred that authority from the king to the prime minister.
No, they did not. They transferred that authority from the governor general to the president.
No, I'm talking about UK.
Huh?
I'm talking about UK.
Yeah, but what I am, anyway, they said I said, I'll tell you what the solution has been put forward, and it's absolutely a sound solution.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it should be made up of a committee, made up of senior counsel from both the criminal bar and the civil bar, because they're the best persons to judge whether you make the cut.
Yes.
A high court judge, a court of appeal judge, because that's who you are going to be appearing before at all times. Definitely the Chief Justice should be part of that process. But it should be a combination of persons who are in the best position to decide whether the status of senior counsel, you earn senior counsel after years. You don't become senior counsel just like that. You have to earn that status. It's not a thing like we giving you a ORTO because we feel that this is something that they look at how you have performed as
well, lady.
Well, not always.
Lady and gentlemen, as we conclude this particular part of this morning's discussions, I would simply say that it is rather unfortunate what is taking place in the sense of the entire controversy, though not unfounded, because the process needs obviously to change. This is not the first time that this has happened. It's not entirely new to us, but such discussions have been raised once more. To me, it is unfortunate that this controversy is overshadowing the achievements of the other attorneys who were awarded senior counsel status. In other words, what they deserve and what they've worked for. And in some instances, one might argue there are political ties and political affiliations with them as well. And I wouldn't deny or doubt that. But it just takes away a bit from them being awarded.
But Keaton, you really cannot say that with such... well, I'll come back with my point.
Not a problem. Let's take a quick break here, and when we return, Karen will just make that point. We'll be right back after.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Force's flagship Mac Beam. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
This May, the spectacular event you've been waiting for is coming. May 27th, celebrate amazing North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Festival grounds, Blanche shares. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
Welcome back to Talking Point, and we left off with the Senior Council controversy that is continuously evolving. Karen Yunus is with us this morning. Karen, there was a point that you wanted to make prior to us taking that commercial break.
And you kind of jogged my memory on that. From the time that Christine Kanglu was appointed, which I have nothing personal against, all the lovely things they said about her, true, and having their little tea parties and opening up the house thing, all of that was very nice. But I knew there was going to come an issue in which her being president, having come straight from the political dial, straight from it, would create a controversy. And it didn't take very long, because fit for purpose should be the test, based on the constitutional provisions and the independence and judgment that the Constitution provides for a president. It would seem to me that bringing in someone who is politically aligned so intimately was not good for the country. We did not do it with Paula May Weeks, regardless of what her views were. She was a Court of Appeal judge. Anthony Carmona, he was also a judge. Noor Hassan Ali, so it was not a good move. And now the chickens have come home to roost. And what do you expect the Prime Minister? I didn't even read what the Prime Minister said, because he had to justify. What are you going to say? It's bad? Of course you can't say that. But he has to try and say something, but he can't get around the fact what he knew. All of a sudden you have to change your mind. Your Attorney General had one view, now he changed his mind. Please. I mean, that's insulting to us, really. But the point I did say I wanted to make was that in regards to the husband and the brother, I know both of them, but I don't know Colin in any way for me to give a view one way or the other. But I will give a view on her husband, Kevin Garcia, because I taught him. He was a valedictorian. I was, in those early days, much closer to my students. He started dealing with my matter and done extensive work. He's a brilliant lawyer. He's very hardworking. He is committed to his profession, and more lately, I had been involved in a matter with the state in which I was a witness, and he was a junior to a senior. And I had absolute confidence, and have had it for many years, that he is deserving of the rank of senior counsel. What is unfortunate for him is it would have been so much better had it been done by the previous president. Because, yes, they would have still say something. They would still say something. But you see what has happened now? It has put it has taken away from what he rightly deserves, in my opinion. Because people will say, don't worry, it's because that's her husband, that's why she got it. Mm-hmm. He got it. No, that's not fair to him. It is not fair to him. And it may not be fair to others, but particularly it would be with the brother and the husband. Can't comment on Colin Kanglu, not for any other reason except I don't have that personal knowledge to be able to say I absolutely know he's deserving of it. And it is so unfortunate that he had to be made senior counsel by his wife. And it will follow him to the end of his days, and it will be said over and over again when it is so unfair to him. Why did they do that? And the final point I would like to make, we're talking all about the politics and politicians. That's why the Prime Minister should not be involved. This is not a selection of his cabinet. This is not a selection of those people he wants to run for MP. This is not a selection of people he wants to go in the Senate. That's political. He has a right to say that. That's his ground. These are lawyers. We are lawyers. I am a lawyer. The person to judge best your suitability to become senior counsel is the profession, not a politician who not only has a say, he has the final say. He says it, and there goeth. And you know what it does? It doesn't. It's unfair to the others, because maybe I might have my reservation about some of those who got it. I might have. I'm not going to say who or what. But what I do know, it put a stain on all or many of them. And it would not be the case had it been done by an independent committee made up of fellow attorneys of a certain caliber, including the Chief Justice, to determine his suitability of those to be awarded that. With the Prime Minister making that decision, that's political.
I think the Prime Minister has kind of unknowingly, well, I would hope, but yes, it's very hard to believe that he is doing it unknowingly. He is not necessarily careful with, his communication and his actions, and it seems as though he's willfully ignorant, or he wants to be about the optics, right? The optics of having wife bestow the privilege upon the husband, which will, as Karen said, follow him. He said that as Prime Minister, he is constantly cognizant of the oath he took, which says he will act without fear, favor, malice, or ill will. And I think on one hand, he's trying to say, I will be objective. But that also includes, well, look, he's deserving. I don't care that it's his wife that's the president. I don't care of the connections. I'm going to do it anyway. The problem is, it still looks bad.
No. I want you to get this point, please.
Yes.
If we take away anything out of this. It's not about the optics and all of what you just said. He himself acknowledged it was not right.
Exactly.
Right. So he himself knew it was not right. And when he became Prime Minister,
well, that's the second part of it.
Not the second part, that's the first and the end of it.
The second part of it is he seems to have a lot more latitude in his philosophy now.
I was just thinking that nothing is wrong with what the Prime Minister is saying, that he's constantly cognizant.
But he was calling for a different process back in 2011.
Sean, understand the Prime Minister's words. I am very much aware of the oath I took. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to practice it, or I do practice it. Understand his words. He's not wrong in what he's saying.
He claimed that he even prevented one of his own parliamentarians from accepting.
So if he's very well aware of his oath, he knew that it was not right. His own words. The AG knew it was not right.
It gets better. It gets better.
He should say, I as Prime Minister, I'm going to remove myself from the process, and the recommendations that we made several times a committee, as they do in England.
It gets better. You just said it would have been better for the former president to have bestowed upon certain individuals silk and not President Christine Kangaloo because of her relations. It gets better because I can't remember if it was a question or if he was just following up on his own statements. But the Prime Minister, right? But he basically said, with regards to, he heard things about why didn't the president recuse herself or not do it or do something. And this is what he said. The president basically spoke about, the Prime Minister basically spoke that the president did not have the latitude. He said the president's latitude that does not exist, right, in order to not carry out what was done. And I would just like to find out, because he said in the constitution or whatever, the president does not have latitude. So I would like to know, with regards to the merit list, how come the president that had no latitude, the latitude did not exist, it was not stated, but we found latitude in
she did. What would have happened? When the list would have come to AG, you're not going to tell me that they sat down and looked at the list because you want to put the right people. So, yeah, at that stage, it would happen.
My point is, it's interesting. In some cases,
Keaton, we want the
president does not have latitude, but in other cases, there's unwritten latitude.
Can we hear Keaton?
No, I don't have much to say because I think both of you all have suggested. One, it would not have wanted to allow Paula May Weeks to do it because that would have just taken away from her vacation time whilst in office. And two, at the same time, the mere fact that Christine Kangaloo actually, spoke at the ceremony, that she knows how it is going to look.
And she didn't care.
Exactly.
And she didn't care.
And that is the point. And the same way...
So forget them party stories and opening up the thing for bands and tea parties.
Precisely the same way that Lynette Seabrand Sweet, who the Attorney General acknowledged
Yes.
that she recused herself because of her position, because if I am to be correct, based on what I'm aware of, she was on the list and
Yes.
she recused herself.
When you say recuse herself, she
In other words, even though that her name was on the list, she recused herself and nominated another member.
I think she also.
Right?
So
why did she do that, though?
Because she is
the AG contacted the law
yes,
association.
and she is, you remember, the head of the law
I
association.
think she also recused herself.
She was probably thinking this is not going to look good. You know, so this is the
They
thing.
have people with some
Exactly. So the thing is, if Christine Kangaloo spoke about it at the ceremony, she was well aware of how it's going to look. For me,
and she did not care.
The other aspect is there is a high possibility that Colin Kangaloo and Kerwin Garcia, due to their years of practice and what they have achieved as attorneys of law, deserve it. It is just unfortunate that in her very first act as president, that this is what happens.
Didn't take long, did it?
It really didn't take
I was
long.
surprised. I thought I had to wait a little while.
I would like to point out that we more or less said the same thing about the current Attorney General. The very first thing that we more or less see in the press was the Miami situation.
Excuse me, exactly. So
So
this
tends to be a pattern.
Yes.
And by the way, we must also acknowledge that the Prime Minister, who is a friend to few, is not a friend of the Law Association. He seems to have a very bad taste in his mouth.
What is his place in this whole process of lawyers? Yes, senators. Yes, MPs. But lawyers, that's something for us to decide, our profession, and including the judges, the Chief Justice, senior members of the bar. Those are the ones who say, yes, when he appears in court.
The Prime Minister would have had a slightly better case if he did not say in 2011 that the process should be changed. But because he said, and it seems as though he's forgotten that he said that. Because I was willing to try to give him some, benefit of the doubt, but that just kind of sinks that.
It also takes away from the honor and prestige of being awarded silk. Because
I think so as well.
It kind of suggests that anyone can get silk as long as you know people in high places. Yes, as long as you know people in high places.
So it's political. It's not. It's not professional.
Keaton, it's not just from my knowledge of some people who I think should have been silk by now. It's not just. You have to understand, it's like, this is not political MP who was a comedian yesterday, and I say yes, it's not that kind of thing. It's a person who has earned that reputation. It's not something that you give away. And what I'm saying is, there are a lot of people who are afraid to take briefs which would be critical of the government or critical of the Prime Minister because they are looking to be made senior counsel, and they know if they do that, and why should a Prime Minister have that power over our legal profession? Keep it to the MPs, keep it to your senators. That's politics, but not to the legal profession.
Not only is it muzzling or potentially muzzling what should be an independent institution, it's also a poor example, again, potentially watching the leaders of our society not be held accountable, watching advancement not based off of merit, and then why do you expect people look at the way how society works
and he could have done something about it? That's the point. He could have done something about it.
We're more or less out of time for this part.
You're sounding exhausted.
But I mean, again, the possibility that Colin Kangaloo and Kerwin Garcia are deserving this honor, I will not take away from that. There is a possibility. It's just unfortunate how this entire process is carried out. But I have nothing against Kerwin Garcia and Colin Kangaloo.
I will support Kerwin. Not against Colin, but I know Kerwin.
I have nothing personally against them because I don't know. Well, I mean, Colin Kangaloo is a supporter of Liverpool Football Club, and we will always disagree on that. I have a strong position against that Colin Kangaloo. Come on, better than that.
Why, Keaton, your football bias is
showing. I mean, come on. But anyway.
Okay, if it was a football thing, then we would get vexed with you.
Congratulations.
For not making him thing because you're vexed against him, so you're using your power to keep him on. That's what they're doing with this. Anyhow, I think we're exhausted.
It's a decent analogy, but let's take a break.
You thought it was a decent one?
We'll be right back after this. I need a break.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister denies nepotism in senior council process. Opposition leader calls for resignation of AG now. Regionally, St. Kitts and Nevis eyes becoming a republic. And internationally, Swiss villagers told to flee imminent monster rock slide. Now for the details. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has denied claims made by political heads that nepotism was involved in the selection process for the last crop of attorneys who gained senior counsel status.
Where I would want to know where the individuals stand in their profession, not who their family is, not who they're married to, not who is their cousin, uncle, brother. What is the standing? The president's husband, who I have not heard a single comment negative about his professional capacity or record. And the same thing goes for everybody else of the 17, of the 18 people who were selected. If there are questions about my decision, about the people's professional capacity, integrity, or capabilities, then I think those are valid.
The Prime Minister was responding to several of his political opponents, whom he says are themselves not perfect. He reminded that during her tenure as Prime Minister, Kamla Persad-Bissessar awarded herself silk.
So himself telling himself to tell the president that I want to be senior counsel. I think I read in this document that ain't so good. And himself telling himself that he wants to be senior counsel. And herself tell himself, I will tell the president about yourself. And senior counsel is conferred. That is not how it is on this occasion.
Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar questions how much more Attorney General Reginald Amor will humiliate himself with his lying. She's calling on him to have some decency and resign now. Persad-Bissessar in a release said that everyone in the country knows this president's silk appointments were a well-orchestrated scheme between the Prime Minister's, AG's and President's offices. She accused the PM of attempting to defend AG Amor and his nepotistic puppet president. Persad-Bissessar added that the press release by the Law Association confirms that no consultation was carried out with that body regarding these awards. In regional news now, St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew said he plans to hold public consultations towards dropping the British monarch as St. Kitts and Nevis's head of state. In an interview with the BBC, Drew did not give a date when the consultations will begin, but he said that discussion will start sometime during his leadership. Drew said St. Kitts and Nevis, which became an independent state nearly 40 years ago, is not totally free as long as King Charles III remains as head of its state. In international news now, residents of the tiny Swiss village of Brienz have been told to pack their bags and leave immediately. The reason? 2 million cubic meters of rock from the mountain above them is set to come loose and crash down to the valley in the next few days. The evacuation order has not come as a complete surprise to the remaining population of about 70 villagers. Brienz, in the eastern canton of Graubardin, has been judged a geological risk for some time. Well, that was your news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to Talking Point, and thank you for staying with us this morning. Karen Yusishar joins us, Sean Michael Small and I. We've done a lot of talking, ladies and gentlemen, so now it's time for you, the viewer, to share your thoughts and opinions with us. Just before we open up the phone line, let's introduce your question of the day. The question that we're asking you this morning: to what extent is political affiliation a consideration for meritocracy in TNT? Again, to what extent is political affiliation a consideration for meritocracy in TNT? You can call in and join us on Talking Points now. The phone lines are up: 628-4578, 623-9376. Join the conversation, and as the phone lines open, we will remind callers that one of our phone lines is giving us a bit of trouble. We are trying to deal with this situation. We are. I mean, there's only so much we can do. But
it is alleged that they came in to upgrade something and they broke something in the process. This is alleged.
We wouldn't tell you who made the allegations, but it was me. Anyway, 628-4578, 623-9376. To what extent is political affiliation a consideration for meritocracy in Trinidad and Tobago? And I suppose political affiliation will be in line with the administration of the day.
You could also, well, yeah. Generally speaking, folks. Oh, well, we have a caller on the line with us from Cascade. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
I will not deal with that last question because that question answers itself. But I want to ask a question as it relates to the Brent Thomas matter. If I am to believe the reports coming out, and there is a consensus on the reports, that the people in Barbados, the political directorate of Barbados, it is alleged, knew nothing about the matter. Mm-hmm. If I'm to believe the reports coming out, it is alleged the political directorate in Trinidad knew nothing about the matter. The judge, in his wisdom, based on law, has pronounced. Why is it the government, who had nothing to do with it, is appealing? I don't know if lawyer, teacher, lecturer, lawyer that learned Karen Teixeira Nunez could give me a response on that. I would listen off here.
Caller, could I ask you a question?
3 questions.
Yes. Do you have any regrets over your support of who should be the president of Trinidad and Tobago?
At this time, I am beginning to have concerns. Mm-hmm. Not doubts. I'm beginning to have concerns because I want to say to you, I've made the point repeatedly. If you know you want to trade with the government, do not accept any appointment that will in some way tar the government and in more ways than one, sully and destroy your reputation. Now this thing might be totally above board, but if I were the president, I would say to my beloved husband, Kerwin, my boy, I think you should wait until I'm out of office. We're missing the boat in senior counsel. We really need the money because in any event you're charging senior counsel fees.
Oh, God. All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for your honest answer. I appreciate it. Karen?
So much done, so I don't know if we would have the time with the Brent Thomas issue. It became a constitutional motion because Brent Thomas brought a constitutional motion saying that his constitutional rights had been infringed by, and when you talk about that, you're talking about the government. So that was the basis of his argument, and the response very quickly, the other responses, but the major ground of appeal of this government is that the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago applies to Trinidad and Tobago, and the constitutional rights that you say were infringed were purportedly, allegedly occurred in Barbados, which is extraterritorial, and therefore to use our Constitution in regard to alleged illegal acts or unconstitutional acts in another jurisdiction is not the correct way to have proceeded. You either go by judicial review or you go by an extradition. So he's saying the whole action was misplaced. But we don't have much time to deal with that. And with your caller, I never said she was not a good person, or they never said. I always said that she was not fit for purpose, and it didn't take long to prove that.
We have a caller on the line with us from San Fernando. Good morning, caller.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning, Karen.
Morning.
I like your casual look this morning.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, I looked at this senior counsel appointment issue. What strikes me is that since 2011, when that situation took place, until Israel Khan brought that action in March, there has been no serious call by the Law Association or the people that control, as Karen calls the fraternity, the law fraternity, to make such serious suggestions in the public domain for the change of this process. And that's the issue. It happened in 2011, there was a hullabaloo, and then it stayed dormant until 2023. That cannot be how things have to work, and that is why we really need constitutional reform. I keep saying that. And if you look at Mr. Khan's action in the court, one of the things he's also seeking is to make, to say that the president should not be advised by the cabinet to make appointments. That calls for constitutional reform because that is part of the Constitution. So my thing is, this is there's a lot of unfortunate in this situation. As she said, Cohen Garcia, it's very unfortunate for him and the position that he is in. But I agree with the caller from St. Anne's that he should have said no because of the optics. Yeah. And that is the unfortunate thing when your wife is the president. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, caller, for your contribution.
I mean, that's why I brought up the origins of it. The system is imperfect because of its origin, and then we took an imperfect system and tried to apply it to us, which, as Rodney Piggott said, like we probably did not put enough thought into it. And why aren't we now not re-examining these things, as the caller from San Fernando rightfully said, is just fodder for Bacchanal and the press every 12 years?
Well, we have a caller on the line with us from Chacones. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Yes, morning to you and Dr. Small and
Dr. Small.
Teachera.
Doctor. You see, you're given an award without any sort of foundation.
I know, right? Actually, I return it. I need to recuse myself from returning it.
That's
Sorry,
a
caller, go
commonplace
ahead.
thing now.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. Yeah, people getting PhD award on the thing now.
Anyway, caller, please go ahead with your contribution.
Right. I am not a lawyer, but I have been watching the legal profession for many, many years. Right. At one time, there was a rumor if you're not singing in the choir, you won't go nowhere. Right now, the thing is, if you don't belong or not affiliated to any particular party, you're not getting by at all. So when you see people affiliated, the whole legal profession is affiliated with a ruling party. That is a commonplace thing now, and you cannot get any fair or unbiased decision arising out of a situation like that. Right? Right? There was a time when a certain gentleman, and I know you all don't like to hear his name called, when Jerry Brooks was the chair of the legal profession. I sat in a forum with him, and I told him, I said, Venezuela is not interested in their gas with anybody. What they want to do is take over territorial control in certain countries, and they want people to be aligned with them, so they're selling gas free to get favoritism. So we weren't going to get any gas from them in any cross-border arrangement under any circumstances. So, you know,
he wants to talk about gas.
No, we don't want to talk about gas, but I'm just showing you how the legal profession dominates with everything. Here you have the chair of the legal profession dominating in an area where is the major mover of the economy in the country. And the problem with the legal profession is they have a significant role to play in how the country is administered.
Yes.
Right? Journalists become bored after a while, repeating the same thing time after time, saying that people not coming out to oppose, to cause things to shift. But a cross-section of the community put a particular political party in power, and nobody is asking that cross-section of the community to come out and do something about it. But every time they talk about it, the opposing party must come out to take care of it. It don't operate like that. You have to understand the ruling party is there, and they command everything. They have everything under their control. You want to go in a march, and when the police arrest you, you end up in jail. You end up having to take out money out of your pocket to see about it. So the best thing to do is to sit down quiet in your house, watch and observe, secure your children, secure your property, and if you could move out, get the hell out.
All right, caller. Thank you very much.
Too big about that.
Thank you, caller.
Do you have a good day? By the way, we have no issue with you calling Jerry Brooks' name on the show. I was rather confused for a moment there, but anyway, as we continue with this morning's conversation, the phone lines are still open. You can call and join us. You know, your point with regards to supporters of the current administration coming out when it is their parties in power and we see things happening that should not be. I hear your point, but just understand it works all around, because the United National Congress will come out now. When they're in power, supporters will be the first to stay in their home. Mighty PNM supporters coming out. So just, it's all round, it's all encompassing. Good morning, caller from St. James. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, St. James calling here.
Morning.
I just called to say that the last time I made a comment about the Prime Minister pertaining to the decision in where appointing police commissioners is concerned, and I agree with Mr. Small. He must have, he could recommend and all of that, but it's just the way we come out and say, I give Gary Griffith a chance, make it sound like he made the final decision. But anyway, a more important thing I called to talk about, in the 70s, I had a family who went to primary school, and after standard one, the teacher and the principal sent and called his parents and said to them, this boy is not doing well in school at all. We recommend that you take him and put him in a trade or something because he is not absorbing the schoolwork. And teachers and so on cared more about children, show more interest in them further back than now. And now what is the trend with my children, because I have grandchildren now, when I went to visit the school, her class, my children's class, a lot of the kids who were sort of given trouble were just put at the back, and they was just made to just stay there with no interest at all, constantly. This is what is happening in the school system for years now, and they had, in the 70s, had the youth camp, big youth camp in Chagaramas, then they opened John Donaldson Technical Institute, and one somewhere up in the east, and children who were not doing well, and I mean the parents have a part to do with this too, looking at the children report book annually to see what they're doing, because so that you know, it would make sense to sometimes to operate like this in this present time, so more children could benefit in the future, as well as the whole country. My family now work is a builder, and he must build about quarter Trinidad. The same one who they took out of school and put him in a trade school. He's ace. He work with Chidley and a lot of different contractors, and he's making, you know, doing well. So I just want to say that children in school who not doing well, is their time to get attention, is break time, lunch time, and after school, in all the videos that we are seeing coming across social media, etc. Yeah. So I want, you know, if right, you want to, you know, highlight I just want to bring that point across.
Yeah, yes.
All right, so you all have a good day.
Thank you very much, Kola. Do have a good day.
It's a very important point, and education is a very important situation that I think is underserved, it's under-highlighted, how bad it is. And I like the point that you raised with regards to the fact that we don't seem to have that care. Different students learn differently in different methods with different subjects. Not everybody's meant to be a mathematician, you know?
Do you think that this is a question for both Karen and John, do you think that Trinidadians and Trinbagonians are so frustrated that they just don't simply care anymore? Do you think it's reached to that stage?
I think there's a level of hopelessness in the country, and people feel that if they took the risk of speaking out, people would listen to, that they run the risk of being punished, either, when I say punished, not getting contracts or their family members or so on. It has become very much so, because if you speak quietly to so many people, they are so disgusted with the leadership in the country. So
I was going to say the same thing. You hear similar about the media, the contractors, TTPS. In the TTPS, I have heard that saying, you know, a fish that swims against the current grounds. So the penalties are even more
philosophical this morning.
Yeah, but the key point is the actual drowning is not rhetorical only. Okay. The consequence of drowning is not rhetorical. We have a caller from Shikonas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
First of all, let me correct your question on the day.
Please do.
Forget the words for governmental purposes. The general public is not swayed by that. Second point is we've been talking about Tobago, and I have for years pointed out that all they do is break the law. Now they operate in a quarry, and they don't have a quarry license. How on earth could that happen? And I agree with Karen that silk should be for the profession to decide. All the other professions in Trinidad, as far as I know, it is the profession who determines the elevation in the profession. And this thing about full-time politicians, you mentioned it with local government. the politicians are not supposed to be full-time.
Yes,
Unless it's a
yeah.
minister, of course. The problem is they have changed up the system to make it a make-up for the Digicel money. Because what's supposed to happen, I told you about this before, is anything go to debate in front of Parliament should have a public service review that is available, and that any changes that Cabinet make should be highlighted and should go to Parliament. If these things are done, you don't need a full-time Parliament. Any questions, gentlemen?
I hope you're well. I hope you're keeping well. But no questions today.
As usual.
I will say, as you're still on air, so I'll say it before you go, that I disagree. I don't know if...
You disagree with what?
I don't know if we should have part-time politicians. I don't know.
Disagree with part-time politicians?
Yeah.
You really believe if you should have the public service... Look what happened with property tax. Right? 20 years ago they're doing local government reform, and they cannot finish it. And the reason is that reason. Right? So I don't know why you disagree with me, but give me a reason.
All right, cool. Well, thank you.
As being the person...
We have to go. We have to go.
Yeah, as being the person who was responsible for the Property Tax Act and preparation of it, I totally disagree with what the gentleman says in regard to that. The Act was passed. We had bills ready to send out, but we lost the elections, and that was the end of it.
We have to devote a segment because...
The property tax, because they're always asking about that.
The caller has been asking about
Oh, he's the one that's asking about
He's the one,
okay,
yes.
I will.
And we keep forgetting because stuff comes up, so we have to...
We also have to close the phone lines at this point.
Yes.
So thank you very much to all the callers for their contribution this morning. And we appreciate you. You can call us again tomorrow morning from 9:05 a.m. But for now, actually, we're more or less out of time for Talking Points. Karen, yes, you sure. Good seeing you again.
Thank you. Always. Why? What did you say?
It's my turn to be sarcastic on this and throw
Look
the
at how,
shade.
but I don't know if the viewers could see the look that Keaton is giving to Sean.
Just the dark circles.
But anyway, let me just say I'm happy to be here always on a Wednesday, and I enjoy participating in the discussion and allowing me the opportunity to develop the issue, and also getting a call, whether it's a little late in the day, but it doesn't really matter because the newspapers kind of guide you in any event, and given the opportunity to more or less say what I would like to speak about. We didn't get to the Brent Thomas issue, which I was prepared, but it is a little bit more complicated, so maybe next week.
We can bring that out next week.
Because I understand the AG is adding other grounds of appeal.
Oh, the Attorney General in Barbados has made some very interesting comments, such as Mr. Thomas willingly leaving Barbados.
Yeah, that to me seems a little bit...
Yeah, but he did say that something wasn't right, but he put it in other words.
Yeah, but he seems to be wanting to throw the blame on others while cover his you-know-what. So I'll just leave that there.
Okay.
Sean Michael Small, have a good day, sir.
I will try. I will try. It's interesting that this silk conversation got so much media attention, and I do wonder, like others have, if it's too much. But
no, it's not.
But to Karen's point, at the end of the day, this does speak to the very bedrock of our constitution and our values.
And it speaks to what I said, that when they made that appointment of Christine Kangaloo, it was not fit for purpose, and it did not take long to see the controversy it has created.
Prime Minister, you're proving the good lady right once again.
Oh God, you're going to make me a real enemy now.
I will simply say, today is a good day to have a good day. I'm Keaton Shaw. This has been Talking Points. I will see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.